All right, good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome into the Nifty Q show. We're interviewing founders, leaders, and builders in the non-fungible token industry. I am sitting here today with Yas, CMO of Galaxy Fight Club. We'll be touching on the recent beta release of their cross-IP MOBA, the play-to-earn market today, additional game features, and much more. And it will be much more because me and Yas were like having our conversation pre-episode, man, and I want to continue that. But Yas, how are you doing here today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And thanks
Yeah,
for having me. How about
absolutely, man.
yourself?
Dude, I'm super stoked. Galaxy Fight Club has a really awesome narrative, I think, behind it with all these like cross IP PFPs we can bring into the metaverse and become the Super Smash Brothers, as you guys said, of the metaverse. A quick question off that Super Smash Brothers piece: who was your Smash Bros character?
I mean, I was never like a one character kind of guy, but I definitely love playing Link.
He was the all around fighter. He was the all around. He had the
Yeah,
good defense, good offense. Nothing
exactly.
crazy. Dude, yeah, I'm super stoked to have Galaxy Fight Club in here, but let's continue that conversation, man, that we were having pre-episode. Like, I guess we were talking about like how hype in the market can drive a lot of people to like be stuck with bags. Essentially, was that kind of the narrative you were going with, and that's what we're seeing here today?
Yeah, I think so. And to be blunt, I guess I was trying to, I don't want to say convince you, but I was trying to bring to your attention that it might be a good time to sell your Bored Ape, um, which people are going to probably hate me for. But if we're being real, um, I mean, it's always the same thing, right? You always play by the playbook. You sell the hype and buy the news.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to sell the Board Ape
Oh, you should,
yet
of course. Like
because
it's
Yuga seems to be the outlier in all that. But I do
yeah,
agree with you, man. Like you were bringing up like the fact that at one point Azukis were just, and we're not throwing shade at Azukis at all. Like they're an awesome project, but like you can see this
100%.
pattern in a lot of these projects where there's a hype cycle that's being driven by a lot of momentum, and then people get stuck with bags because not everybody can play that diamond-handed game.
Definitely. And I don't think it affects the Bored Apes as much because there's there's a ton of value outside of just having the NFT, just for being like in that Bored Ape ecosystem. So I definitely think it makes sense to hold. So it's not like we were actually being serious about it, right? It's the same thing with me and my V friends. Like I don't think I would sell my kind warrior because I had offers at like 150 ETH for a spectacular V friend, and I couldn't sell it. It's just the emotional attachment.
Does your current self ever like look back and say my like former self would slap me for saying something like that? Because we're like still relatively young. I'm sure like 4 or 5 years ago you were kind of like getting by, and now you're saying I won't sell anything for 150 ETH.
Um, definitely, definitely. And sometimes I just think back at like when the offer was made to me about half a year ago, 6 months ago or something, and I still think, well, maybe I just should have taken it. Um, and I had a couple people reach out to me actually and be like, dude, you should have just sold it and bought other stuff, and it would have been easier to double your money that way, like another time, and rather than just holding on to it and hoping for the value to increase. But I think that it's less for it's I'd say it's the same thing as you having your board ape. I think it's less about the monetary value that it has and more about what it actually means to just have that NFT.
Hmm.
Not sure if that kind of makes sense, but yeah. And it also, I mean, the VFriends were like my first NFTs ever. So it also has like that emotional connection that I was talking about earlier. It's
Yeah,
just difficult. It's difficult.
yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts on like people's emotional connections to their PFPs, of course, because you guys are adding like an additional utility piece, basically saying, hey, if you own this PFP, now you can actually like be in our game with your board ape or with I mean Subducks, Alluvium. You guys have a bunch of dope partnerships. Shout out
Mm.
to the chat really quick. King Peck is saying V Friends partnered with GFC with like the eyeball emoji. Is that happening anytime soon?
Well, I'm not allowed to speak on that yet, so
Oh,
I can't confirm or deny it.
love it, love it. All right, man. Well, let's get into a little bit of your background. I usually like to have these episodes start with a little bit of foundation as to who you are. so that we can kind of roll into Galaxy Fight Club. So, what's your background just in general, and then how did you find the space?
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on how far or how long back you want me to start.
Start
But
all the
I'll
way
try.
back.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So, um, I was born in Germany, and my I'd say growing up, we were moving around a lot, and I spoke about this just briefly in I think one interview that hasn't been published yet, or maybe I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I usually don't include this in my introductions, but we used to move around a lot, which is why I was spending a lot of time online. Because it was just easier, to stay friends with people online rather than, making new friends everywhere you go. And yeah, I was just a huge gamer, I guess, by nature. Um, Spent 16,000 hours in an in-game character of an online MMORPG,
Which game?
Guild
Wow.
Wars 2, actually. I don't think it's actually that popular in the US, right?
Guild Wars, I remember being popular for a little bit. I don't know if it's as
Yeah,
popular like you're saying, but that's a goated
yeah,
game
but
for sure.
dude, I loved it so much, and I still love it. Like sometimes because I'm still in the Discord of my old guild, and sometimes I just check in. I don't participate in like any conversations or so, but I just check in, read through some conversations, just kind of stay updated on like the major updates and stuff, which is pretty fun. And then I get that nostalgic feeling. But yeah, to get back to what I was saying, huge gamer, and then I kind of, yeah, like after school, went to university and stuff, which obviously you realize that you should be start playing less games and focusing more on like your real life and putting some effort towards, university and stuff like that, um, which worked out fine, I guess. I studied like econometrics and operations research, which is super like data driven and math driven and stuff, but realized that just because I was good at it, it wasn't really something I wanted to do. So once I was done, I just started my own like marketing business um, from scratch without any experience, which was kind of funny. But yeah, that was like 7 or 8 years ago now.
What industry were
And
your clients in?
so initially, so it all started off by doing like Instagram services, right? So I took the sort of analytical thinking which I kind of picked up during my time at university and started like I like to call it just growth hacking, sort of, right? Because I started to analyze how the algorithm on Instagram works and what we can do to influence one account to just grow organically and go viral. So that's what I was doing then for anyone really who wanted to grow an Instagram account. I would just figure out a strategy to make it work within their own industry and then just grow these accounts. And it was absolutely insane. Like we were growing hundreds of thousands of followers per account in like 2 to 3 months, which is
Can I
nuts.
hire you right now for that?
And we can talk about that off air.
All
But
right.
it was absolutely insane. And that's also where I met one of my best friends, because I started like a Facebook group where I would just give out like advice, just free advice for whoever wanted to join. Just keep it like sort of an educational group. And I met one of my now best friends who's called Chris, and he's the CMO of Deadheads, and he's also the one who introduced us.
Okay.
And yeah,
I don't know
and
if he's Docs. I only know him by I Have a Poner, but
yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah.
a great name, by the way. But anyways, continue.
It's not just a great name, like it's a great person behind it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and yeah, so that's kind of how it all started off. But then over time, I realized that Instagram, um, it's difficult to quantify results for clients because even if you grow an account and you don't have actually a a super great account manager who can actually take advantage of people's attention and know how to influence or how to properly structure the account in order to generate whatever call to action you want to happen. Um, it's very difficult to quantify the results for your clients.
Hmm.
So I started moving away from that and focused more on B2B businesses and lead generation for them. And just filling up like their sales pipeline, doing sales trainings and stuff like that. Because obviously over time, as I was trying to just get more knowledgeable in the position of just being like a business owner, just started to accumulating so many skill sets, including sales. I think that was like one of my greatest strengths, that I just wanted to go down that route. And it's a lot more quantifiable, or yeah, it's just more trackable, I guess. When you're talking to your clients, it's like, okay, well, this month we generated X amount of leads for you, which ended up in so and so many conversations and 3 or 5 sales or whatever, right? And then it's like, okay, is your ROI there or is it not? And then
that's your product at the end of the day. I'm getting you the leads. You need to follow through
Yeah.
with the product. How did this
Yeah.
lead to crypto and NFTs?
Yeah, it didn't lead to crypto at all. It was more like I was following Gary for essentially forever, since I started like that business, and he essentially just got me into the NFT space. So I was never into, or at least not. I knew about crypto, and I put like a couple $100 into like Ethereum and Bitcoin, like in
not bad.
2018 or so.
I thought you were gonna say Doge or something. I thought you were gonna say
No,
Litecoin
no.
or Shiba.
I was no, I was never the kind of hype guy who followed like the shit coins and stuff. And I'm still not really a crypto investor. I wouldn't say that I'm big into crypto. I'm more into NFTs because I feel like it's easier for me to navigate in a space that is based on human interaction and emotions, rather than just graphs, where you just analyze if a coin is like going up or down, and I don't know, you analyze like how it's been in the past and how you predict its future movement and stuff.
So
I just don't think
an economics and data major would rather have the human interaction side. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because I just don't think that those predictions are like feasible. It's not making sense to me. You know what I mean? Like if it was actually, I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but if it made sense to me that you can predict the future by analyzing the past, which makes sense in general or like in theory, but not when you apply it to a crypto coin. It just, for me, it just doesn't add up. That connection isn't there. And I can, and you can actually see this when you watch like some YouTubers or whatever, and they start talking about is Ethereum going to make its next move up, and they have these thumbnails, where they're like, oh, yeah, and whatever, right? And I'm not trashing on any of those YouTubers. I love them, right? but every time it's like, they say, okay, the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to either go there or there, right? So you're like, well,
cool.
Obviously, yeah, I could have said the same thing. It's like, no rocket science. So getting an accurate prediction is so difficult in the crypto space. And I think that if you follow a trend that's more like emotional, or based on like emotions and people's reactions and communities and humans and interaction, it's a lot easier to kind of get a sense for where things are going. And I think Champ is really good at doing that, actually. Do you know Champ Crypto?
No, I don't.
Okay, I got to send you his Twitter later. Maybe you can, or you should probably connect with him.
Yeah, please. I'd love to see it. I see what you mean though. Like on the fringes, data. I mean, you need it, and it helps you make decisions. But it's super more. It's just more momentum. It's more hype. It's more emotional than all of the processes that come when the fringe moves on, and more of the structure gets placed, and we're already gone at that point.
Yeah, and it's like, so you essentially just nailed it, because it's a combination of both. But in the crypto space, you just have more of one, right, and less of the other. Whereas in the NFT space, you have that human aspect, and you can back it up with data. It just comes so like super hand in hand.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. This is a great convo. I know a lot of people are here to hear about Galaxy Fight Club, so we have to continue to move it on. So one quick question I did want to have on that Gary Vee piece is like, what was the piece of information or the video that he kind of had that really kind of sparked the light bulb for you? And
Mm.
then let's make it into like your journey within NFTs to Galaxy Fight Club.
So I think that a lot of people hate Gary Vee, right? Or they trash on him because they say he always says the same thing and stuff. Um, and I partially agree. He does. He is super repetitive, right? But I think if you listen to him, he can spark your what's the right word? He can actually give you the courage to do something that you otherwise wouldn't have done. And that's essentially what happened with me. It's like, right, um, my whole family's, has that mindset of security and just, doing the stuff that society kind of expects you to do. And yeah, it was just super difficult to deal with that. And then, I watched Gary Vee and he's like, you're young and you can do whatever you want and you still have your entire life. Like even if you fuck up, you can still go back and do whatever is right and then just, live a normal life, right? I don't think that people appreciate that enough because it was life changing for me. And I'm not saying that you'll you'll acquire some knowledge that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten by watching Gary Vee or anything like that. But it's just if you're on the fence or if you're not sure about how to proceed, I guess, then yeah, he just makes it kind of easier, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Gary's a great motivator. I think you can see that even if you're not
Yeah.
like an avid follower of his stuff, you can see that he's a great motivator for people that watch his videos often or even one time. So you found that Gary V video, you saw that NFTs could potentially be something that could that you want to get involved in that obviously have some good value. What was the next step? Did you get involved in some PFP projects? Were you getting involved in communities? Did you buy some tokens? How did that all work?
So the first mint obviously was VFriends, and it was so funny because I was talking to Chris, and we were saying like because it was a lot of money at that time, right? Or well, it still is a lot of money, but it's like the mint for the spectacular VFriends was over. It was a Dutch auction, and it started at I think it was starting at 6 or 7 ETH, and it went down to 3 or 3.5. I can't exactly remember.
Mm.
And the cores were from 3 ETH to zero point 0.5. So it was a very expensive mint, right? And I had about 15 or 20,000 euros saved up at that time, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna take it and dump it all into VFriends, and worst case, I can still go to VCon, for the next 3 years, and network and connect with people with like-minded people and stuff. And that was like the justification Chris and I were talking about. It was like, okay, so worst case, we just go to VCon and it's going to be awesome, and we're just going to have an awesome time. And it's like, whatever. But yeah, it turns out the collection kind of mooned, not to the obviously to the same degree as Bored Apes or anything like that, but definitely way beyond any of my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I minted Subducks, which I think that was like my second or third mint, but I sold it at like point 0.3 or something because I was panicking because I saw it go up once and it hit point 0.4 and I didn't sell. It went back down to below point 0.1, and then the second time it just kind of went towards like point 0.3. I just listed it and immediately sold. Next morning I wake up, it's at 1 ETH,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was one of those moments,
Yeah.
but
Is
but
it is Subducks undervalued now? Like they're sitting at like point 0.6 or
I'm
something like
okay.
that. Like it has to be
So
so undervalued.
so we've actually partnered up with Subducks. Um, I think this week was the announcement. Yeah, it was yesterday. And I'm actually having a Twitter space in a bit with the Subducks team, and I'm very excited about the partnership because I've been a fan of Subducks for forever. Like since I minted, I kind of like like I didn't even want to sell. I was just kind of I was panicking in that moment, and it was like I was still super new to the space. But I've always been a fan of Subducks, and I'm actually considering getting a few Subducks right now because it actually feels like they're like I don't know what exactly is going on, but it seems undervalued for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because people go out on limbs. The projects go out on limbs and like launch these utility tokens, but I think that those
Mm.
can like muddle the environment a little bit. I don't know. It seems like they're super undervalued. But that has to come up in your spaces. The fact that you panic sold a subduck
Oh, definitely.
with
Yeah,
them.
definitely. But yeah, after that, I bought some Deadheads. I'm a big fan of Deadheads. I mean, like it's public information, right? Like anyone, like pretty much everyone knows that I hold like the Kind Warrior, the Bubblegum Spectacular. People just check my wallet and shit. But I have quite a lot of Deadheads, quite a lot. I mean, like 10 or so. Um, not like hundreds. I have some Skull Troopers and stuff that's like all in the Deadheads ecosystem, and that's just because I guess most of it because Chris works there, and it's like he always phone me in. Uh, it's yeah,
It's
it's
doing a
just
good
it's
job.
so funny. Yeah, yeah, he definitely is, and I like the team, and it's I think that Tempo and Jeremy are really really cool guys, and I also obviously want to support them to some degree,
Mm.
and I think that um, the fact that they were so early and they have this like motivation to do something big it's very similar. I see like because when you're a founder, like you start judging people's decisions and moves from like a different perspective, and that's essentially what I started doing. Is like I look at them and I see the same quality of work that we're doing, you know, and the same like structures and the same processes and things like that. So I have that appreciation for that. Like even if it was to go to zero, I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, it was still worth getting that, you know?
Well, that's the conversation we were having earlier in the episode. Was like people don't often
Yeah,
value stuff in this environment and this industry in the right way. Like they want to chase the next 100 ETH bet or whatever. When they see a
yeah.
project that's actually working, that's not necessarily something that's going to lead to a high floor price. Because I agree, Deadheads is doing some cool shit. But it is what
They
it
were, I
is.
think they were the first ones with. Do you own Deadheads?
Yeah, I own like 3 Deadheads.
Do you have you seen like the green room and stuff?
That was the one of the coolest things. We
Yeah,
just had Deadheads on last week. That's freaking awesome.
yeah. It's like I think they were the first ones to have something like that in place.
Yep.
If not the first ones. I can't remember exactly, but like they're super innovative. Is that a word? Innovative?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
Okay. Because now you see everyone, putting up marketplaces
Yeah.
and whatnot and stuff like that. They announced their burning mechanism for Deadheads. I think like back in what December or November or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like back then, they had these tickets that you can use in combination with the Deadhead to burn them into a Halo head, which still are to be released. But no one was talking about that stuff at the time, you know?
Yeah.
And nowadays, you see like everyone has a token, everyone has a burning mechanism, everyone has this and that. Like those guys are legit, way above the curve
Yeah,
when
they
it
are.
comes to innovation.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Deadheads, of course, but we have someone in chat.
And I think
MCO 12 is saying we need to talk about GFC as
Yeah,
well.
and I was
So
I was about to say no, I was about to say like this is the perfect transition into GFC
yep.
because the stuff that we're doing on Polygon is like I think it's unheard of, right? We have all of these different mechanisms. We have a forging system where you can, throw weapons into a burning pool and then it generates like a higher tier weapon. We have a training mechanism where you take. Are you familiar with our collections?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so we have a couple different collections, and it might be complicated at first, but it's actually pretty easy to get a gist of it. You have our main collection, which is the Genesis Fighters, and that's the collection that everyone knows. Then we have a weapons collection, the Genesis weapons, and then we have a second generation fighter collection. I think these are like the main three. There's also some like other ones, but I think let's focus on these three for now. But what you can do is you can take your Genesis fighter, you can burn 4 weapons alongside that fighter, plus burn some G coin in the equation to get a second generation fighter. And that training process takes like a week or 5 days, I think. Um, and you'll still hold your Genesis fighter. So your Genesis fighter doesn't burn. You only burn the 4 weapons and the G coin, and you get a second generation fighter, which I don't actually think that anyone has a mechanism like that in place on. And we're doing that on Polygon, obviously because of all the gas fees and stuff.
What's the importance of the 5 days there with the burning mechanism and then having
Because
it
it's
5 days later? Is that the staking, like taking it out of the supply?
it doesn't actually stake.
Okay.
So what we did differently, because obviously all the Genesis fighters also generate G coin, which is our token. But what we did differently is we decided to just have the fighters accumulate the G coin without having to stake your fighters, because I think that I don't want to call it like manipulating the market, but I think having people stake their stuff is it's a it's a it's a two edged sword kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, obviously, you can sort of shock the supply of your collection. On the other hand, you're kind of tying people into your ecosystem, even though they might not even want to. You'll have people forgetting to like renew the staking and stuff. It's just, I think that, I think that for just coin accumulation, people shouldn't necessarily have to stake. If there's additional value to it, if there's something special, then okay, go ahead and have your collection to be staked all day long. That's cool with me. But if it's just for a coin accumulation, I feel like people should be able to get that reward regardless.
I
So we decided not to have them stake their fighters.
So there's a couple lightning questions that I want to get into. One is the if you could take me quickly on the founding of Galaxy Fight Club and like when you guys launched and what you guys have been up to since. I know that you had the beta gameplay launch like last week. It's like a really awesome month for you
Yeah.
guys, but just take me quickly through that origin piece of just how you founded it, very quick, and then how long you guys have been around in
For
that kind
sure.
of question.
So I think our first mint was back in August of last year. So we've been around for a while, and the first collection that we minted was our Genesis collection, so the Genesis Fighter. So if you go to OpenSea, to just type in Galaxy Fight Club, that's our Genesis collection. Um, those fighters, back in September of last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'll probably get one of these dates wrong, and people are going to hate me for it. But I think in September they started accumulating Gcoin, which is publicly tradable now. So you can go on to SushiSwap or Huobi or whatever exchange platform and trade it, which is pretty cool. We had our second collection that was minted in November of last year, and that was our Genesis keys, which is another fun system that we built on Polygon because you could mint these keys on the main layer, so on Ethereum, and then we airdropped a revealed key because obviously initially like all the keys are unrevealed. There's different tiers, so you didn't know which tier you got, and then we partnered up with Chainlink, who are specialized in like randomizing these processes to make sure that it's verifiably random, like the outcome. And then we airdropped revealed keys to all the holders on like a random process. Then we had, oh, then people could use those keys to open loot boxes on our website. So you can take the key, go onto our website, use it, connect your wallet, you can use the key, and then it like opens the loot box. It's all animated and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think I posted those videos on our Instagram, but and then you get a bunch of loot out of that loot box, which includes like weapons, consumables, and stuff like that, right? So it's a pretty cool system.
Yeah,
And
and it's built out. So again, like you were saying, it is tough for someone who has no idea to know where to start. So that would be the
yeah,
question that I want to pose to you now. I talked with our community before we went live, and the main question I was going to ask you is like, how do I get the best exposure to Galaxy Fight Club? I know that that's you're on the team, so that's not necessarily. You can't say buy or anything like that, but I just want to know, like, is the best thing to do for me, to get involved in the ecosystem? Is it to buy that first generation fighter? Is it to buy keys? How should someone get involved?
I think that it really depends on what your goal is because Galaxy Fight Club is so complicated and so complex. It has so many different like aspects to it, and you can view it from so many different angles. So it really depends on which approach you want to take. So there's the approach of, for example, just wanting to max out on Gcoin, right? And betting on that as like a sort of an investment over time. So you could, for example, say, okay, I want to play the floor and just buy a bunch of Genesis fighters because they accumulate between 5 and 15 Gcoin per day, depending on their rarity. But I think from a price to a value ratio, I think the floor is the move if you want to go for the Gcoin route, because getting that 5 Gcoin a day across, I don't know how many floor fighters someone wants to pick up, makes sense. And then you'll end up with, I don't know how much Gcoin over the next 3 years or 2.5 years by now, which you can sell or keep or use or whatever. Or you can say, I want to participate in like weekly tournaments. So, and because we're gonna have these like weekly tournaments that are gonna have like ETH prizes and stuff. So we're looking at roughly like 2 to 3 ETH maybe per week that we want to give away in these tournaments. So you could say, okay, I just want to become like, I'm a gamer. I want to become good at the game. I want to own everyone and scoop these prizes, right? And I'm like, okay, fine, get a good fighter, probably a second generation fighter, because they're on average just stronger than the Genesis fighters. And I think they're also cheaper for the strength that you're getting at the moment, because people haven't really caught on to that yet. But get a second generation fighter, get a really good weapon, and you're set. Go practice in game, and then you'll be fine, right? That's another approach. Or you could say, I want to see what's like happening behind the scenes, and I want to like try to, I guess, just trade in and out of GFC, get a battle pass. You'll get some VIP insights into what we're working on, and you'll be able to navigate that to whichever degree you'd want it to, you know? There's just so many different things to GFC. It's really difficult to say like where to start. But I think that if someone like if you're really interested in finding out more, reading the white paper, but actually reading the white like actually sitting down, taking like 15 minutes maybe out of your day and reading the white paper is a good move, because I think that we did a pretty good job at explaining stuff on there. But outside of that, just hopping into our Discord, and I actually had, and I'm not making this up because it just fits the narrative. I actually had someone message me yesterday who was new to our Discord, and he was like, dude, I just came in, I heard of your collection, and I wanted to get like involved and buy a fighter or whatnot. And I hopped into your Discord, and the people there are so helpful, and they gave me so much information. I literally didn't have he didn't have to look up anything. They literally
Yeah.
just gave him bite-sized pieces to make it like understandable and everything. So I think we have one of the like everyone says that, and I'm gonna admit that, but everyone says it, like we probably have with the most helpful like community when it comes to that stuff. Um, but yeah, I
I
think
think
that
Yeah, I think you almost have to have like two different sets of onboarding. And what I mean by that is like I was talking with Yatsu from Animoca Brands, and he put this so well about like people coming into the space as either residents or tourists. Some people want
Mhm.
to like get deep into that white paper, right, and become a resident of your community and be there, while others just kind of just want to be tourists. They'll be here, they'll say
Yeah.
they want to get involved, but they're never gonna do the amount of research that it takes to actually take in a project like GFC. So I mean, you guys are doing a good job. I'll hit the cross IP piece here because like one of the main narratives that you guys have is that you can bring in potentially other IP, Bored Apes. We talked about alluvials. We talked about subducts. You can bring all these in one place. Take me through like the technical process, maybe not the blockchain and the actual building of that, but like what do you mean when it comes to bringing a subduct into the game, and how do you guys get that done?
It's actually pretty straightforward, because all we do is we create these 3D in-game models for different collections. So, for example, we can take Subducts as an example because it's like recent, and we actually had the um, well, we actually had them create. Well, they didn't create them, but they were already created. They already had the 3D models, which kind of made it easier for us. So they sent us their 3D models, and we just tested them just checked if they're compatible with our game, which they were. So obviously it just saved up so much work on our end. And now all we do is we implement all of the 3D models they gave us. We assign, depending on the collection, this varies. But if we take Deadheads for example, people who own like a mummy are going to get a mummy in-game character. People who own a skeleton are going to get a skeleton in-game. Like it's impossible to include the whole 10,000 individual characters, and build out individual 3D models for them. That would kind of be kind of crazy. But we can do like 10 or so, or 15 or 20, depending on the collection and stuff. And then we just assign them to the metadata, or one like property of the metadata, that kind of resonates with the look of the 3D model. And then when people create their account on our platform, we link it to their MetaMask wallet, so we can always just scan their wallet once they log in, see which NFTs they're holding, and which one of those are assigned for a specific 3D model, and then they can use that 3D model in game.
This gets me back to like the main question that all of us metaverse like heads want to get to, is like, when will we get to a Ready Player One? You mentioned that like it's almost impossible for you guys at this point to implement 10,000 of the apes for everyone to have their own individual ape, which leads me to believe, at least in the near future, we're not going to be able to do Ready Player One. Everyone isn't going to be able to be true like themselves. Right now we have like 1 or 2 or 10 that can represent our community in a sense.
So I think that it's actually a lot easier than we might think, because if we think back, like we launched, if we take us for as an example, right? Obviously, because I don't want to step on anyone's toes, like outside of GFC, but we started developing the game about not even a year ago, right? So maybe 10 months ago, approximately. And we have a product that is working. We got approved on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. We are having people log in and play the game, like an actual fun gaming experience. And I'm not making that up, because people are, you can just scroll through our Discord and you'll see a bunch of different people say that they're actually so addicted to the game. And that's an insane progress for this short amount of time. And I think that if it wasn't for, like, we have so much things like that we want to implement into the app and into the game, that it just comes down to setting priorities, just like with everything, right? And I think that if it was our priority to have each individual person get their own character, then we could have just built a character creation UI, where you can log in, we could probably build some AI that could scan your MetaMask and each individual NFT and model something that's like that's a basic look of an NFT, right? And then you could customize it. I don't think that's like something impossible to do, but it just wasn't priority for us, right? For us, the priority is we want to first of all develop the core game, which we focused on in the past couple of months, get on the App Store, get approved for everything. Now make sure that we have the tournament features ready, because we're launching a huge tournament in the next month or next 2 months. I don't want to say something wrong here. We're still in April.
I want to touch on this App Store piece, dude. I want to hit the tournaments. I just
sure.
need to stop you because you guys do have a lot of going on. So you mentioned, like, even recently, I think a week ago, you guys got approved, or a couple weeks ago, you guys got approved by both the Apple Store and Google Play Store.
Yeah.
Just quick lightning question, like, how the hell is that process done? Because we know, like, we've seen a lot of adversarial approaches when it comes to Web3 and these centralized platforms. How did that go for you guys?
Yeah, it wasn't easy, and it took us a couple of weeks. So it wasn't. It's not like you can just apply and you get approved, especially for the Apple App Store. It's actually a pain, and you need to go back and forth and just have slight changes and make sure that you negotiate terms properly. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but I think everyone who's familiar with that setup knows that usually the Apple App Store takes like a cut of your revenue that you make from in-game purchases and sales and things like that. So it's not an easy process, and I'm not even sure like how many Web3 apps are on the Apple App Store, if any, besides us. But yeah, it's something that I think is very overlooked when it comes to GFC. It's like the fact that we managed to pull that off is actually something really special.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were having, or projects were having problems with
I mean, even
the.
Axie isn't approved on the App Store, right?
Well,
So
again, the biggest piece is the token, right? Like a lot of what they came back with was saying, hey, if your platform has some type of currency or some type of token, we can't allow you on the platform. So,
yeah,
I know you can't say too much, but that's really dope that you got it done. You got gameplay that's coming out here. I know Bryson, Kagi, a couple other streamers have come out and are just like playing the game. Tell us a little bit about like the beta access. Can people get involved first of all, or is it just big time streamers? And then how has the reaction been?
I mean, the reaction has been fantastic. I actually don't think that it could have been any better. Um, and anyone can play the open beta, so it's called an open beta for a reason. We want everyone to try it out who wants to play, and there's no restrictions, so you don't actually need to buy any assets or any NFTs or something like that. You can just head onto your app store, download the game, and just create an account and play the game. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I think that with getting and yeah, I need to be careful what I say now because some of this stuff hasn't been announced yet. But
Just announce it here. It's fine.
the, should I announce it here? Well, but there's yeah, we're. I'm just gonna announce it, I guess, because it's kind of obvious, I guess, by now. But we did onboard Bryson as well into GFC as a partner. He has a brand or like a guild that's called Loot
Loot
Squad.
Squad. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're partnering up with them. We're also partnering up with Bryson. He had a huge announcement yesterday, which I was super happy for, with Vayner Sports. I obviously knew it because we're also working with Vayner Sports. Um, I was kind of in the loop on that, but I'm super happy for him. He's such a great guy, and I'm just happy that we were able to get him for GFC. So he's going to be pushing out some content, and we also onboarded him onto our gamer council. So he's actually going to be, reviewing and sharing his experience with us and seeing how we can improve. And I think he was telling me that he wanted to get on the Axie council as well, but for some reason it didn't work or he was too late or something like that. I can't exactly remember, but he's excited that he's on a council now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Axie has been under fire recently, mainly because I follow Kagi and he loves trolling Axie Infinity. But they've been under fire. So it's cool that you were able to, use. I wouldn't say use that, but definitely that partnership with Bryson is amazing. Tell me your strategy behind this, like short and long term with these streamers, because they're gonna bring eyeballs, to your game. What's your strategy on like the short term process as well as like how you're viewing streamers long term with your Web3 game essentially, or just
Mm.
gaming in general? How are you looking at streamers?
I mean, I think streamers, it's hmm. Since we're aiming to 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 build towards that esports experience, obviously streamers are going to be essential. Like it's an essential part of any like esport ecosystem in my opinion, um, because you want people to have someone to look up to, right? Someone to learn from, and someone to just consume content from, right? On an ongoing basis, and then obviously also having like streamers for the tournaments and things like that is just all gonna like kind of yeah, I guess just resonate and yeah, lead into one another.
Yeah, when do these big esports teams get involved? I know we've seen like a lot of crossover, right? Like 100 Thieves. I think some of the founders are getting in to different Web3 industry sectors. So just kind of that question I'll throw out to you. Like when are we going to see 100 Thieves or a Team Liquid get involved in Web3?
I mean, I don't think it's that far out to be honest. Like obviously I can't predict the future, but within the next couple of months, we're definitely going to see some esports teams like enter the Web3 space. I don't doubt that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're guys. We're like I would say a little bit over halfway through the episode. This is the Nifty Q Show. We do these every Wednesday and Thursday. If you're not able to get here for whatever reason, it's here on YouTube. It's also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so that'll be there 24 hours after the episode. I'm sitting here with Galaxy Fight Club. I'm sitting here with Yas. We're going through some features here from the actual gameplay and things like this. So if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Yas, I guess my question to you here is, I played a little bit of a Thetan Arena. Shout out to Prodigy here in the chat. We would like play like 3v3 or Battle Royale. And we would get wrecked by people who maybe spent more in the game. How do you deal with the pay-to-win aspect, and how does that work within your ecosystem? I know you mentioned like you can upgrade or have better characters here and there. How are you looking at kind of like balance inside of the game?
I mean, there's always going to be there's always going to be weapons and stuff that are stronger than others. Just like when in any game, you're always going to have something that's slightly more powerful than everything else. And there's actually something that a lot of people brought up with like the open beta launch is like, well, this tier of humans isn't strong enough compared to whatnot and this and that. But I think that there's obviously two ways to look at it, right? So one being from a competitive standpoint where you say, okay, if we were to have a tournament tomorrow, right, and we would have, say, half of our holders participate, which is like 1,500 people approximately, or 1,200, 300, something like that. It would probably be fair to say that the winners are more likely to be the ones who have a stronger character or a stronger fighter or a stronger weapon. But if you look at the big picture of having a healthy ecosystem with a daily active user base of upwards of that number, right? So if we approach, the 20,000, 50,000 daily active users, 100,000 daily active users, then you're talking about an amount of players inside of your ecosystem where the individual stronger character or whatnot isn't actually going to be that noticeable in the big picture, because there's going to be so many interactions and so many people like queuing up for games and stuff. The chances of you facing that person that just has that overpowered thing is so small. Like, it's, first of all, they need to be online, right? And then they need to be like around your elo or around your skill level. And then, you'll have to still match make them, right? So the chances are super small. But I definitely feel that people are feeling like right now there is some stuff that's overpowered. And I agree. It's not like I disagree. But yeah, as I said, like if you look at the big picture and moving like a couple months into the future, I think that all of this is just going to play out fine, because you're going to have so many players just hopping on, even with like free-to-play characters and stuff, that it's not actually going to be that noticeable. And at that point, I would even argue the contrary, because you want people who are long-term holders or people who want to be like the stronger person in game, or the strongest or whatnot, to be able to invest into the ecosystem and get something that's stronger than other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not to the degree where you have one person that's going to be owning everyone, but to the degree where you can say, excuse me, where you can say that, okay, there is like anything above this tier, which might make up like 5 or 10% of any collection, is going to be the strongest tier that people can get, and that's where the competitive scene is going to be, focusing around, right?
How much of the competitive scene is going to be dominated by guilds as opposed to just individual players? I know guilds and scholarships and all these things are part of the play to earn industry. I wonder what you're kind of thinking of when it comes to guilds. I know, crypto people were always thinking in like game theory. You could obviously have like a guild come in and rent or give their guild members like better weapons so that they're the better players and all these different things. How are you looking at guilds within your ecosystem?
I think that guilds aren't actually going to be that into the competitive scene. I view guilds a lot more as the bridge between scholars and the game. And I think that if, and I might be wrong, but I think that if a scholar was actually that dedicated that he would want to get into the competitive scene, he would probably just skip that bridge and just approach us. But I might be wrong. Like I'm not exactly sure. I guess we'll see and find out. But that's just my intuition. It's like I think that guilds are more just the bridge between the gaming project and the scholars, and the competitive scene is probably going to be more. It's probably going to be more Western people. I feel like, but more like buyer focused people. But then again, they might be like they might rent out their assets to individual skilled players. I don't
Yeah,
know.
a
It's
lot of us
definitely
don't.
it's there. I mean, there definitely is some directions that we can say, okay, it's most likely going to go towards this direction, but it could still play out the other way around.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions here on like demographic. So like two lightning questions would be like, where is your demographic currently right now? You mentioned the West potentially being involved in the competitive scene. I know some of these, play to earn games have seen a lot of use in like Brazil, for example. Like I'll be watching a Twitch stream and there's a ton of Brazilians playing it. All speaking Portuguese, which is a funny just thing to watch because I can't understand shit, but I can see them playing. So I wonder where that demographic is right now. And then what is success to you when it comes to the amount of players playing in the ecosystem? I'm with a lot of NFT music people. The one cool thing that they talk about is the ability to be successful without having to reach 1 million people. And I think that translates to the gaming scene very well. So those two questions, demographic, as well as what is success when it comes to a user base for Galaxy Fight Club.
So demographic in which sense? In like people
Geographic,
that we're
like
trying to reach?
geography.
Sorry. So I think that in terms of the PDE space as a whole, like actual games, right? Not just like the game theory projects where they call it PDE and they just have like a bunch of burning mechanisms. Like that's not actually a game, right? That's not PDE in my opinion. But for actual games, I think that there's always two. I like to call it like two audiences or two personas. You have like the buyer's market and the seller's market, right? And they kind of make up your foundation long term. You need to have like a good balance of buyers versus sellers, with obviously majority of the sellers then coming from the like probably third world countries of the world, probably more like Asian based, South America, stuff like that, and the buyer's persona being more like US based, maybe European, but first world, more wealthy, and more focused on collecting, more focused on winning, more focused on these things, or long term investing and earning, also a big part of it. And I think it's important to be able to address both of these in a similar fashion, or at least to the degree where you have both of them. And that's again when when we circle back to the guilds, they actually can help bridge the gap between a project and a healthy player base, right? Because they have all of these scholars which they can easily onboard into a game if they really wanted to, right? Because they can just activate them, push like their narrative of their own story into that direction, and make sure that their scholars are kind of keen on playing the game. And then with the buyer's market, I think the larger part of the NFT audience is like that buyer's persona. So I think that's just on us to make sure that we, communicate our messaging clearly or clear enough for people to understand and to, yeah, have faith in us and invest into our project. And I think that's something that we 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 we're not doing the best job on. I think we can definitely improve it. I think we have improved a lot over the past couple of months, though. Like if you look back to like late last year or yeah, something around that, I think that it was a lot more difficult to understand what Galaxy Fight Club is about compared to today, and especially because we're having like a whole rebranding happening here in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna have like a new website, a new game trailer, actually two game trailers coming out around the same time, with one being like a teaser trailer sort of thing, and one being more like cinematic, more like game graphic ish, which is gonna be cool as fuck. And we have white paper updates. We have all of these influencers coming in. We just had the beta launch. We're gonna have the tournament with a prize pool of like $250,000 to $500,000, which is gonna be insane. And we're gonna have people like Bryson, participating in that. Having companies like so I don't think
Second
we have
Alpha?
announced. No, no, no. I already said too much. I think I probably shouldn't have mentioned Bryson, but
No,
um,
I appreciate that, man.
there's
I
gonna be there's gonna be like top tier people, and people actually, if people want to go to my Twitter, you can start speculating onto onto what's happening because I drop so much alpha on my Twitter without saying it. Like I say things without saying them. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, if people actually put together the different pieces, they can get it. And sometimes people DM me and they're like, okay, I figured that out. Like
yeah.
it's about that and X Y Z. But um, yeah, it's just
It,
yeah, better to keep it secret for now.
yeah, that's good. Give us some stuff, but like definitely keep some behind the curtain a little bit, man.
Yeah.
This has
Oh,
been
and
good. Go ahead.
we're also having like the land sale coming up, which is gonna be crazy. Um,
Okay, so we'll touch on that land sale piece. I did want to ask that other lightning question from like a user base perspective, but I do want the land sale information. What is success to y'all in the short term? Just a
oh
lightning
yeah, totally
question.
forgot. Sorry,
Uh,
I tend to go on rants and then forget about half of the
that's
questions.
my job, man.
But
I
what's
bring it back.
success? I mean, success can be defined in so many different ways, but I think that one, like if we talk straight about metrics and KPIs, I definitely think that daily active users is going to be in there. Um, yeah, I think that that's definitely one way to measure success, but not exclusively. I think there is many ways in which success can form, and it might come. I mean, not saying it might come, but in a sense of, in theory, like if anything was possible, it could be viewed as a success if we partnered up with, I don't know, like an esports company, right? Say, I think like ESN is one of the more well-known brands out there in the esports space. So if we take them for an example, like ESN, say they onboard Galaxy Fight Club as a a esports accepted game, quote unquote, which they want to help us push out the narrative for people to, or for competitive players to start playing that. I think that would be like a huge success. I think that dominating the gaming market just like Axie did like a year ago is a key metric for a success. But I also think that having having achievements just as small as having like a healthy community, having people who actually believe in you, that's already successful. Or having, I don't know, maybe some company, because I know Gary tweeted this, or was it on an interview? I think it was on an interview actually a couple of days ago. He was saying that he's looking into acquiring PDE games in the NFT space for VFriends. So like, would that be viewed as a success if Galaxy Fight Club sold like the company behind it to Gary and then still had the same people like on board and stuff? Like, would that be? I don't know, but I think it would be.
Yeah.
But there's just so many. Like, I just think that there's so many things that into which directions it could go, like long term. But I think for now, like we're hitting these milestones on a regular basis. Like we're making sure that we have these like bi-weekly updates in our Discord, where we like write out like full I think usually around like 10-15 minute read, medium article, and then post that into bite-sized pieces on Discord and stuff. But we make sure that we hit new milestones that are key metrics for success in our eyes and our community's opinion, on a bi-weekly or at least a monthly basis with like major milestones. So we can or we make sure that we keep delivering, right, and we stay accountable to ourselves.
Yeah, the play to earn industry, man. Like, I want to move into this land sale, and I appreciate your guys' success up to this point with building a community. The play to earn industry. I don't know if you've watched or like looked at any of those like really early Bitcoin threads on like Bitcoin Talk, but it reminds me of the conversations we're having now. Like, they were talking about all these use cases that we'll see in a couple years with Bitcoin and all these things. Some guys even predicted like NFTs on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain. When you talk about esports arenas and all these big, these big $250,000 rewards, I know it's just around the corner, but it feels like we're not there yet.
Feel like
And
forever.
it feels like we're just sitting on our hands. So it's really cool to see beta gameplay come out, man. And I'm not surprised at the reaction that you guys have had being so positive. So I want to get a little bit more alpha here about the land sale, man. So what's going on with the land
Actually,
sale? What do you guys have planned?
I actually don't think, and I'm actually being serious, I don't think I've ever talked about the landscape before. And it's still a couple of months out. It's not like this is going to be happening tomorrow. I think a rough estimate might be like June, July, something like that. But the land, dude, the land. A lot of people have been asking me about the land.
Yeah.
So the land's actually going to come with its own app, its own game. But whatever you achieve in that game is going to give you upgrades and boosts for your characters in the Galaxy Fight Club like main game, if that makes sense. So the land is going to be more of a how do you want to call it, like a I'd say like did you used to play Age of Empires?
I did.
Yeah, so I would say it's like a mix of Clash of Clans with Age of Empires, but without the fighting, because we have the fighting aspect in our main game. So it's a lot about gathering resources, building out your land, and getting to a level where you can acquire, or where you can not acquire, but gather or generate. I think is the right word, where you can generate this special resource, which I'm not gonna reveal its name yet, but it's gonna be fucking awesome. And then you can use that to unlock specific things in our main game, and I think people are gonna love it, because I think it's such a logical next step. And I came up with this idea, dude. I'm not sure if you ever played like these browser games back in the day,
Like
but
Farmville?
yeah,
Like that type
yeah,
of.
I'd say like sort of. I used to play like browser games when I was like 10, so thinking back like 18 years ago. And back then you had these browser games where you had zero graphics, but you had like your village just being a bunch of buttons that you could click, and then it would open up a picture of a building and stuff. Like it was it's like super old school
So we're the
type of
same
shit.
age, or
And
ish. So I'm trying to think back
yeah,
until like what was this game titled? Like, what were these browser games?
I think O Game was like the biggest one,
Okay.
at least here, like in Germany. I grew up like in Germany uh most of my teenage years, but
Flubber saying
um
Kings of Chaos. Is that one that does that ring a bell?
um I
But
think so. Let me look it up really quick. But
I didn't mean to throw you off.
no, all good. But I think that the core principle um that I was thinking back. I just had one of these like nostalgic moments, talking to our founder, and we were just brainstorming on like what we could do and shit. And I was like, dude, wouldn't it be so awesome? Like, am I the only one, or did everyone used to play these type of browser games like back in the day? And it would be such a logical next step to have a not battle dedicated, but more like gather and resource dedicated game as our next step. Um,
Mm,
but not as two ecosystems, but as an addition to our existing ecosystem where we can add new mechanisms that are going to benefit our holders. You know what I mean? So I'm super stoked for it, and I'm gonna be. I think I'll start releasing more information on this pretty soon. But I think that I think that people are gonna love it. At least I'm like, this is definitely something that I think is gonna be my thing. Like, I think that I'm gonna be playing the fucking land game all day long, for as long as I can, and make sure that I get my hands on these resources because I think that this is gonna be the. I think it's gonna be a key to actually getting to that end game Galaxy Fight Club level
mm-hmm.
of stuff.
Well, man, where can I go with that? Like Web3 projects are always like they always kind of remind me, and we kind of use the terminology and phrasing of like them being their own kind of kind of their own cities, right? Like some of which have their own currency, all these things. So it makes sense to have like a logical extension of your game and not just be a battle system like a Super Smash Brothers.
Mhm.
Like when those games existed, it was for the like pleasure of playing the game and yada yada yada. But when you add crypto into this stuff, when you add blockchain, you can extend that into a resource game that can build out your lore and all these different things and build out your guys' own metaverse. So I'm excited, man. There's
The,
some projects that are kind of doing similar things that I'm just really looking forward to this
the,
like
the,
resource piece.
the main difference I think between what we're calling our land and what other people are calling their land is exactly what you just mentioned. Um, is that our land is not supposed to be our metaverse? You know, it's like Galaxy Fight Club is our metaverse. And I actually had a discussion with AJ and with Darren, one of his employees at Vayner Sports, the other day, where it just it just blew me away because if you think about it, and then I had another conversation with the owner of Council of Kings and with properties who are like essential metaverse projects, and it just all came together in my head, where if you think about it, what is it like the metaverse is what? Is like, okay, so are we looking up to like NFT worlds as the metaverse right now? I think that's like the main thing right now, isn't it? Um,
Well,
well, if you think about it in essence, it really isn't, because first of all, you have a huge barrier to entry, even if people don't want to admit it. But the barrier to entry is huge because you actually need to get Minecraft to be able to play, and for all projects building on NFT worlds, they have to follow the Minecraft terms of service. So they're not actually able to monetize their platform long
mhm.
term, which essentially just means that, and this is not my words, this is coming from someone who's building on NFT worlds for their main project, right? This isn't me saying it, but they think that NFT world isn't going to make it long term because of that, because they're not able to monetize it, and eventually it's just such a difficult part to have an ecosystem that is not non-monetized unless you want to charge your users.
Yeah.
But good luck with that.
Well, Sandbox was attempting this the most out of anyone, I think, which is just like kind of bringing a world of different
But
worlds
again,
together.
but again, if we look at Sandbox, which would have been like my second point, is have you tried out the beta
I
of
have,
Sandbox?
I have, and yeah, go ahead. I have.
Yeah, I mean, so have I, and I think it's a cool experience. But is it actually like it? The way I view Sandbox is like, or the way I experienced it is probably a better way to put it. The way I experienced it is, it was such a nice experience going in there for the first time that I would be down to revisit in like 6 months. Do you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I go in, it's like a museum. Like I went there and I was like, dude, this is awesome. But it's not like I want to go back the next day and be there like all the time. It's like it
Yep.
was so nice to see. It was a great experience, and I definitely want to be here. I definitely want to come again, but it's like not. It's
To,
like Disney. Like it's like going to Disneyland. Like you're not going to Disneyland every day. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
To
It's
me, it
like
feels like every project is building their own Disneyland. Like it
yeah,
feels like every project is trying to build out their own kind of ecosystem, which is just fine, because the problem with, and you just mentioned it, with Sandbox and namely Decentraland and CryptoVoxels as well, is that unless there's an event you're there for, you're not just gonna like, chill in there,
yeah,
because
exactly.
there's just not enough people that you want to connect with at the end of the day. So
And the way that they saw, and this is the guy from Vayner Sports talking to me, and he was like, you guys have a finished product. Well, not I don't want to call it a finished product because it's still open beta, but it's like a playable product.
which is
You
a
have an
finished product
audience,
for us
which
in this space.
yeah, yeah, I guess to some degree, but you have an audience, you have mechanisms in place that could essentially have thousands upon thousands of people onboarded, and you own the platform. Like you can do whatever you want on that platform. And I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, or yeah, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, on a different show, where if we imagine someone like McDonald's showing interest in entering the Web3 space, what are they going to think? What are they going to look for? I think that they're going to look for the number one trending thing to do, and that is building the metaverse, right? Or taking part in the creation of a metaverse. And the easiest foot in the door, and we saw this by various other Web2 native companies, is entering the Web3 space by buying a plot of sandbox land and hiring someone to build on it. It's the same thing over and over again. But they're investing all of this money, and I think that the Darren told me, and the guy from Vayner Sports, he told me that he was actually talking to another company, a huge US-based company, who were looking to invest into or take that step into the Web3 space, and they were going to write a check of like $8 million or something to one of these like metaverse brands or companies or whatever you want to call them, that we just spoke about. And he was like, I told him not to because it just doesn't make sense. Like everyone is doing the same thing without even knowing if people are going to go and visit Sandbox. It's like I'm not trashing on Sandbox. Like I love it, and I think that the amount of innovation that they brought into the space and build it, like actually having people realize what's possible in this space, they were just they took so much of that onto themselves, and made it happen. But I just think that without the
Yeah.
proof of concept and also with the people building on it, and I heard this from another guy from one of these projects that are building on Sandbox exclusively, that the mechanisms that they're able to develop inside of Sandbox aren't actually what they were hoping for, so it's just so difficult. And I think that if we look like 6 months to 12 months to 24 months into the future, the whole space is going to look like totally different. And who knows if any of
Yeah.
the projects that we're talking about are even going to still be around and stuff. It's going to be wild.
I think Sandbox is going to be a winner, but I also believe it's a natural
I hope
progression, right?
so.
Sandbox completely did better than, in my opinion, Decentraland, which was one of the first Web3
Absolutely.
native, metaverses. So that's going to continue. One thing I do want to tie in is that the metaverse land, we're kind of coming up to the end of the episode, and so my editor doesn't get too pissed off at the like longevity of this one. The other side land that is in Ape, which I was surprised with. I thought that they would like make it available in ETH and
It's
Ape
crazy, isn't
or
it?
something like that.
Yeah.
We had a couple questions of like, what is your land sale going to be priced in? Is it going to be potentially in Gcoin? And then just give me your last thoughts there, as well as Gcoin in general, as far as it being the token of your ecosystem. Let's make it
hmm
quick, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll pop
Yeah.
out.
I'll try to keep it short. So I think that first of all, to give you my opinion on Gcoin, I think that Gcoin is without a doubt vastly undervalued at the moment. And I can confidently say that because I think that did we hit IDO prices again? I'm pretty sure we're below IDO price right now. Yeah, we're at around 30 cents, 32 cents at the moment, which is around the price of our private round. And I think it's vastly undervalued. I think that, and I tweeted this out a couple of weeks ago already, people are going to regret big time with what we have planned for the next couple of months and not taking their leap into our ecosystem, purely from a purely rational standpoint. I'm not the, and people in our community know this. I'm like, we don't hype shit up for no reason. We don't sell the hype. We just provide the finished announcement, and then people can do whatever they want. Like, the market is going to move according to the actual announcement, not to whatever we say in advance. But I think that, yeah, Gcoin is vastly misunderstood and undervalued. And I think that regarding the land sale, I actually haven't decided on that yet. But what I was considering is having the main sale be on ETH and setting aside a certain number of plots or NFTs that are going to be exclusive to our Gcoin marketplace that's coming up. That's another piece of alpha I haven't mentioned before. Like, we're having the marketplace come up.
If we elongate this to another hour, I think we'll get like more and more alpha. But I think we're gonna have to shut it down. I want to give a quick shout out. You guys were awesome in the chat today. Mco, Kevin, Super No, Flubber, Prodigy, Bullish Bear, King Peck. Like, you guys are all awesome. Definitely want to give a big shout out to our community members, our vibe, our tribe here. We do these. We do the Nifty Q show, Wednesdays and Thursdays. This was an amazing one with Yas from Galaxy Fight Club. Any last points you want to point out? Thank you for dropping all that information, by the way, especially ones that you haven't before. It was a great combo, man. I again, like, I just like to keep it. Some people aren't going to click on something that's an hour and 30 minutes long.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And just thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I genuinely mean that. Like, we had a great conversation, and I'll be excited to just chat again. Like, not necessarily on here. We can invite you onto our Twitter space or something, just have another conversation there, or just have a private chat, whatever. Like, I think this is awesome. And thanks so much for having me. And if anyone who's watching this is interested in checking out Galaxy Fight Club, go to our website, galaxyfightclub.com, and you'll find all the links there to our Discord, Twitter, and whatnot. And hit us up. We're always there 24 hours a day. So
yeah, Kevin is saying you better get to that Subducks spaces as well. I don't know when that is. So
yeah.
we'll wait. Go ahead.
I'm late by 25 minutes already.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. Well,
I messaged him.
All right. Well, we'll get out of here. We don't want the Subducks folks to get too upset. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This was the Nifty Q Show. We'll see you tomorrow.